Today what we're gonna do is the first half of this packet. And, again, like I said, it's gonna feel more like a math class than an English class than a math class, okay? So, what's gonna happen today is they're gonna give you a statement that is either true or false. So it could be like, if you go to Ricori, the mascot is a Spartan. But it has to be something that's true or false. It's not going to be something that is an opinion. So it can't be like, math is my favorite class. That's an opinion. It's gotta, well, I guess for you it could be true. But it's not like usually an opinion, it's something that's an actual fact, okay? What's gonna happen with those statements is we have to say if they're true or false, and what they call that is the truth value, okay? So when they say find the truth value of this, that just means is it true or is it false? Now, when they give you statements today, and I don't know why this is, when they give you several statements, they call them P, Q, and R. Those are the three letters they use. So they'll give you a statement, and then you'll have to determine if that's true or false. And a rectangle is a quadrilateral, because a quadrilateral is any four-sided figure. Okay, so that's true. Then there's something called the negation of a statement. The negation, what you're going to do is add the word not in it. So a true statement is Mrs. Botten has 3 kids. So if that was P, that would be true. If I negated that, it would be Mrs. Botten does not have 3 kids. Now, if P was your statement, how you write that it's the negation of that is you do this squiggly in front of a P. It's kind of like what's on top of the congruent statement. You put that in front of there, and that just means add not to the statement, okay? So here it says a rectangle is not a quadrilateral. Since P was true, then not P is going to be false, okay? Now, there are 2 different compound statements that we're going to learn today. The first one is when you have a statement that is combined with the word and, okay? So what happens is they're going to give you 2 statements. You're going to write it out together and connect it with the word and, okay? So if they told you P was a rectangle is a quadrilateral and Q was a rectangle is convex, what you're not going to like is you have to actually write that out. You'd say a rectangle is a quadrilateral and a rectangle is convex, okay? Now, how that is going to look when they ask you to write it is this, okay? They're going to either say to do P and Q, which just means write out P, put the word and, write out Q. Or the symbol for and looks like this. Okay, I kind of think of it, since it's a symbol for and, I kind of think of it as kind of like a capital A. But it's up and up arrow like that, okay? Now, what is on your cheat sheet looks like this. So you guys have this right here on your cheat sheet, okay? And this is really going to help you guys out today is this. When they ask you to take 2 statements and connect it with and, that is called a conjunction. And when it's connected with and, or that symbol, which is like an arrow pointing up, both of your statements have to be true for the whole statement to be true. So let's say that we said Mrs. Botten has 3 children and Mrs. Botten is a math teacher. Both of those are true, So my overall true value would be true. If it was Mrs. Botten is a science teacher, which actually I can teach science, but we're going to pretend that it, or Mrs. Botten is an English teacher, and Mrs. Botten has 3 children, we'll just use that again. If only one of them is true, then the overall is not true, okay? So, let's go back. I'm gonna actually just go to the top of this. So this is what your homework is gonna look like for today. They're gonna give you statements P, Q, and R. The one thing I will say, I don't have you explain your reasoning at all. So what that means is they want you to say if it's true or false and then explain why. I don't make you do that. So here's what they're saying. Write the statement P, put the word and then write the statement R. So that's what we're gonna do first. I use abbreviations a lot, so you're welcome to use abbreviations as long as they're not more than what I'm doing. So like, I'm gonna say the figure, and I'm gonna do FIG for figure, is a, and then a triangle, I'm gonna make a triangle, and then they want me to write out R, so that is the figure has 3 acute angles. Okay? So there's my statement. Now, what I have left is I have to determine if that's true or not. Now, something I usually do right at the beginning that I didn't for this one is I usually do P, Q, and R and looking at this and right in front of them whether they're true or false. So P says the figure is a triangle. That's obviously true. Okay? The figure has 2 congruent sides. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, isn't that what these mean? That they're congruent? So that's true. And then the figure has 3 acute angles. Is that true?
What is that?
Acute angles are less than 90. So is that true? Are all 3 less than 90? No, is because one of them is a right. So this one's false. Okay? Now what I'm gonna do, I have to determine if this is true or not. P was true, so I'm gonna write that there. R was false. For an and to be true, they both have to be true. One of them is not true. So what that means is my overall of this is false. So when you do these, you're gonna write out the statement and then determine if it's true or false. You can certainly use T and F if you want to. Okay? Now this next one, they want us to write Q. That symbol means N, and then they want us to negate R. So Q is the figure has 2 congruent sides. So I'm gonna write that. The figure has 2, I'm gonna use the congruent symbol for congruent, and then sides. Remember that up arrow looking thing means and then it's not R. So what that means is you're gonna take R here and you're gonna add the word not into it. So we can say the figure does not have 3 acute angles. And the figure does not have 3 acute. And when I do angles all the time, I don't know if I've shown you this or not, that's my abbreviation for angles. I do an angle symbol with an apostrophe S. You're gonna see me do that a lot. Okay? So I wrote it out. Now I have to determine is that true or false. Now Q right here is true. R was false, but now I negated it. Let me give you my notes quick. Oh, actually, they're over here. now that I negated it, it's gonna be the opposite of that. So instead of false, it's gonna be true. Now, both statements are true, which means my overall is true. Okay? So for these, both of them have to be true. Now this says not P and not R. So what I have to do is negate both P and R, which just means put not into it. So I'm gonna say the figure is not a triangle, okay? The figure is not, feel free to make a triangle for that. And I have to do not R. R is the figure has 3 acute angles, so it's actually going to be the figure does not have 3 acute angles. So, and the figure does not have 3 acute angles. Okay? Now, when we look, we have to determine is that true or false. P was true, but I negated it, so that means it's false. R was false, I negated it, so that means it became true. What's the overall then?
False.
False, because they're both false. Okay, or I'm sorry, one of them's false. Okay, so remember, to be true, they both have to be true. Okay, so that's called a conjunction. And if we look down here, with the conjunction, again, they were combined with and it looked kind of like a capital A, and they both had to be true. You have this chart on your cheat sheet. Then there's a disjunction. In a disjunction, which is what we're doing next, they're going to ask us to do like P or R, or P or Q, or something like that. The symbol for or is just the capital A looking thing upside down. So this looks like a V, okay? And in this one, only one has to be true, okay? So if I said, Mrs. Botten has 2 children, or Mrs. Botten has taught for over 30 years, I have 3 children, first one's false. This is my 31st year of teaching. So the second one is true, so the overall would be true, okay? Only one has to be true. So this is what this would look like. So we have truth values of disjunctions. So they give us this calendar here, and they're giving us P, Q, and R. And normally what I would do is kind of start here and think about, is my P true? Is my Q true? Is my R true? P says January is a fall month. That's false. I think we all know that's far from true. January has only 30 days. If you're like me, I don't know how many days are in each one, but this calendar shows us that there's a January 31st. So this one is also false, okay? And then it says January 1st is the first day of a new year, and that is true, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write out Q or R. So I'm gonna start with Q, and it's January has only 30 days, or, make sure you put or on these, and then R is January 1 is the first day of a new year. Okay. Now, Q was false. R was true. In a disjunction like this with or, how many have to be true? Just one. So is it true?
Yep.
It is, because one of them is true. Okay. Now they say P or not Q. So the V is or, that means negate Q, so just put the word not in there. So let's do that one. P is January is a fall month. Or, now not Q. I'm just gonna take this and put the word not into it. So January does not have only 30 days. Once you get that written out, we have to determine if it's true or false. And P was false. So this is false. Now Q was false, but we negated it. So this would be true. So what would our overall truth value be? It would be true because one of these is true. If they're both true, it's still true. The only way it's not true is if they're both false. Okay? Now it says not P or R. So I have to negate P. So I am going to say January is not a fall month. Then that V means or, and then I write out R, and R is January 1 is the first day of a new year. And then we have to decide if that is true or not. Now, P was false, okay? And down here, it's not P, so that would be true. Or R is true. So here they're both true, only one has to be true. And if they're both true, that's all the better. So this is true. Okay? So this just summarizes what we learned today. Remember, if you have that squiggly in front, that means not, and just add the word not in. If it's kind of like a capital A without the bar across, that means and. And how many have to be true then? Both, yes. And if it's a disjunction, it's a V or. And how many has to be true there? One. Could be two, but only one has to be. So your assignment today, this is really big, I don't know. Okay. So here is your assignment. Don't worry about explaining your reasoning. And then before you copy that, I just want to go through what these statements are for this. So this is 28 through 33. Let's just go through whether these are true or false. Okay? If I look here, it says DB is the angle bisector of this angle. Do you guys know what an angle bisector is? Bisect means what? Do you remember? It means cut in half. So does this cut this angle in half? And these each, this should show like, whoops, that this angle is congruent to that angle. So it is an angle bisector. So when you get to 28, this is true. For Q, it says C, D, and B are collinear. Do you remember what collinear means? On the same line. Are those three on the same line? Straight line? No. So this one is false. Collinear, they'd have to be on the same straight line. And then the last part is AD congruent to DC. Is it? Yes. So this one is true. So just when you get to 28 to 33, that just shows you what the truth values are for those. Okay? Another thing I want to say too, guys, if you have a test or a quiz to make up, I do night school on Tuesdays and Thursdays for 2 hours. We're here right after school till 10 to 5. So if you need to make something up, that would be a really good time for you to do that. All homework has to be in by Friday, and all tests or quizzes have to be done by then. Really, the only time that I have available is Tuesday night for those 2 hours, Thursday night for those 2 hours, or Friday morning. Yeah.
What hours again?
Tuesday and Thursday for think of it as 3 to 5 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Okay? All right.